Hello, this video really goes with the article which I wrote recently, a short article about coaching really. This isn't to give you a whole discussion on how coaching is, etc. I'm going to cover those in later videos and in later articles. But really just a generalisation, because looking at polls and comments on Facebook really, it's quite clear that a lot of people seem to be getting very confused about coaching. The poll I saw suggested that most of the people had not had any course or any training or done anything really on coaching. So therefore, of course, immediately made me think, well, there's part of the problem. If people don't understand, there is. If we're taking our advice on coaching from places such as Facebook, etc., then that also has its problem. Anybody who's ever heard of the Pareto's principle will know about something called the 80-20 rule. I've talked about it a lot, etc. Basically, the 80-20 rule in business and in driver intuition and in things states that 80% of the people in business terms, 80% of the people are doing it wrong. Okay, they're wrong. It sounds strong, etc., but it is a known fact. 80% of businesses are getting there, struggling there, whatever, etc. 20% of businesses are doing well and getting there. And the same with education. 20% of the instructors they probably do know about coaching. They've taken some form of course, etc. The courses aren't always good courses, etc. Sometimes they're a bit long-winded. But 20% of people do understand coaching in a sort of educational terms. And what I'm actually going to try and show you is that actually it's probably the other way around. We know more about coaching than we understand or than we realise we do, etc. I'm going to start off with some of the myths really I wanted to clear up. First of all, it's perfectly acceptable to teach during coaching. Coaching and teaching, they're not different things in a sense. Teaching is a tool that we use during coaching, as is guided practice, demonstrations, etc., prompted practice, or lesson planners, etc. They're one of the many tools you've got that you might actually decide to teach people. Now, coaching is not about doing exactly what the pupil wants. Again, I keep seeing this really, if a pupil just wants me to teach them to pass a test, then if it's client-centered, then therefore I must teach them just to pass a test. Not really. Client-centered in a sense of think of it more as in the interest of the client. The client, and we're looking after their best interest. What does the client need? And sometimes they don't know what they need. They may know what they want, but they may not know what they need. And that's not to say we're going to bully them into doing things that they don't want to do. But we'll take an example. A client says to you, I don't want to learn the turn in the road. It's not one of the manoeuvres and I don't want to waste money on it. Okay, fine. Now, we know that a real life practicality, a real life solution to some things is that client, that pupil, might need to turn that vehicle around on the road safely and under control. We know it's something we've done many times over time. So in a sense, a client-centered tuition would really be to steer them, excuse the pun, towards why they would need that, etc. And there's many ways we can do that. We can do that on question answer technique, or just simply turning them left somewhere down a dead end, etc. Go, oh, how are we going to do this and that now? So again, this article is not about how to do it, but more about some reasoning. There are many different levels of coaching as well. I did one of the things I did on coaching was with the DVSA, and their presenter told us about 7 layers of coaching, 7 levels of coaching, etc. And I'm going to cover a little bit more about that in a moment, etc. You are probably coaching already. Coaching is not complicated, and coaching can also be intuitive. You can do it by instinct. Coaching is very often just a conversation, possibly a more deep conversation we sometimes have, but we're leading them into, not just how we do something, but why we do something. the dangers that it might cause or the risks that might be caused if we do it somewhere. But we're trying to get them to talk about risk, etc. But we take it beyond that to when might it be more riskier. Speeding, for example, why shouldn't we speed? Oh, well, you'll get nicked. Okay, well, I might have a crash. Do they truly believe they'll have a crash? No. When would they be more likely to speed? Again, they might come up with things like when their friends are in the car. How else could that make the problem worse? Well, I want to be seen to be good to my friends. Let's go, yeah, and it goes on, and it's really just trying to get them to be there. A definition I read recently about coaching is coaching assists a client to bridge the gap between where they are now and where they would like to be far more effectively than if they worked alone. So that's all coaching is. A learner comes to you here, and we're going to get them there. We're going to use many, many tools within doing that. Coaching allows us to raise the awareness of a pupil by using thought-provoking questioning techniques. We ask questions that make them think for themselves. We don't give them necessarily, we're not trying to give them answers. Delivering speed awareness courses, which I did for some time, one of the things we would do is we would ask clients, what are the benefits of speeding? Or it sounds like a counterintuitive one, but we would ask them for the benefits of speeding, and they would often realise that, well, there weren't actually many. You'd ask them what the benefits of keeping within the speed limits were, etc., and they would come up with maybe a dozen or so. And certainly in the early days, I would then see a trainer then say, well, yes, there are, but here are these, and then go and give them 10 more of the trainer's own reasons why you should keep the speed limit. And that was counterintuitive, really, because if your pupil, your client, has come up with 12 different reasons, then that suffices. That's it. That's their reason, and that's fine. So we're trying to get them to think for themselves, so they can actually go for the reasons as why they need to do things, and start to get them thinking now. It's not really what's gone on with many driver trainers in the past, but it is something we do to some degree, but we just need to enhance it a little bit, etc. To give you an example of one of the things I used to use is the mobile phone in the car. When I was an instructor back 20 years ago, or 15 years, etc., when I was doing it then, if a student got in the car, I would be, right, where's your mobile phone? Make sure you switch it off. Absolutely switch it off. Today I wouldn't do that. Today I would let the pupil come with their mobile phone, wherever it is, I'm not worried, etc. And actually part of me would be hoping that at some point during the driving lessons, the mobile phone's going to ring. When it does ring, you see a panic in their face. You see them thinking. You see suddenly their thought process gone. They start to make driver errors. You can see them physically and struggling with certain aspects of the car, etc. And normally then you've got this perfect opportunity to question them. That's the problem. How did you feel when the phone went off? What do you think you could do? Etc. etc. But again, it's up to them. They might say, well, I'm just going to ignore it next time. Fine, yeah, good idea. They might say, I'll leave it at home. Absolutely fine. They might say they're going to switch it off. Absolutely fine. Whatever they do, they come up with a solution that works. Then it works for them, etc. Now, if later on the phone rings again and the solution doesn't work, then of course we can look a bit deeper into it. By coaching, we assist them to find practical step-to-step solutions and things to their goal. So we're helping them to find solutions to what they want to do. It might be challenging hill starts or something. So we'll try and get them to how would they like to do it. Part of the DVSA talks about transferring the responsibilities to the learner. So again, we can do this step by step as well. So we're helping them to find practical step-by-step solutions to their problems. By coaching, we also give ongoing support through any changes and obstacles that the people may encounter. And that's what we're doing, it's support. We allow them to learn for themselves to some degree. They learn things and some things go wrong. Those that know me and know me when I do when I've done mentoring for degree courses, etc., I've always said to people, and my staff in the office as well know this, that you learn more from the mistakes you make than you ever learn from doing things right. Let me explain. If you do something right first time, it may be that you just did it right. It may be by luck, it may be by some sheer skill, and it could well be just accidental. And it's possible that no learning took place during that process. If you do something wrong, you can analyze what you've done wrong and then redo it in such a way that it does work, or redo it again if it still doesn't work. And you can see, well no. In teaching, of course, we look at what did go right about something. You know, let's say it was a hill start. They may have found the bite nicely. They may have done good observations, and that's what we point out. It's really, really good. You did that, and you just build on what is wrong. By coaching, we offer people the techniques, tools, and strategies to make changes. And also these changes are likely to be more long term. And we use many tools, as I mentioned before. A pupil is, certain things they want to do. They want to get a car, they want to have the freedom on the road. They need to do what they need, though, to do this is to pass a driving test, and they need to take driving lessons. They probably don't want to take a driving test, and they don't want to take driving lessons, but they have to in order to get where they are. So again, what we're offering them is lessons, etc., in a way to get to where they want to do. We do this again using transferring coaching skills. I talked about different levels of coaching, and I think this is really important. So I can remember this. The DVSA course that I went on, their representative at the time, who's an external consultant on coaching, general consultant on coaching, not necessarily just to do with driving, but coaching is coaching. Talked about level one. Level one really was absolutely helping them with every single step of the way. This is where we would be instructing them. If people really want complete, utter instruction on how to do something, or a pupil needs it, should we say. In this occasion, a pupil needs it. Right the way through to where the pupil doesn't need any support whatsoever, etc. The highest level, level 7, really, this is the ultimate one, was what they're called mission critical. This is beyond all help, beyond everything. This is when, you're about to hit the brick wall and the student needs some sort of help, and you need to have to completely take over. Obviously, all instructing, all coaching and everything goes out the window. I remember when coaching was first introduced, one group was talking about how you should always coach and never instruct. Instruction was bad, etc., etc. And I remember at the time thinking, I could imagine people heading towards a brick wall, they're 3 feet away, and the instructor, the coach, would be asking them, and how do we think this is going to feel once we've hit the wall? And what are we going to do next time to prevent this from happening? There is mission critical, okay? So it ranges from absolutely they can do everything themselves and we're just there if they need help, right the way through to the mission critical where we take control. And obviously the lowest just below that would be full guidance, etc. So there are many levels, and what we have to do is we have to use and choose the level at the time. And this fits very much within the DVSA's transfer of learning shared responsibility. Where are they in this responsibility? Okay. And that's something that you and your pupil will set. And it's very important to make them clear, set levels that you know where you and your pupil are. Lots of little mini agreements. So I will be 7 and you're a 3, or I'm 70%, you're 30%, or whatever. But make sure you've got it in there. If you're looking towards coaching, I often say you don't need necessarily big, long courses and all this lot. But if you're looking towards it, I'm going to give you just a few little tips now, really, that I've searched around for that can help you initiate coaching. The first one is find out the pupil's needs, their motivations and desires to help your pupil achieve learning. So it's really about showing an interest in them. Why do they want to learn to drive? What drives them? What do they like and what do they do? I used an article earlier about rapport, gaining people's rapport, and this is very important. You gain that rapport. Start using question techniques to help pupils' own thought process in order to identify solutions. So ask them provoking questions where they are. Support your pupil in setting appropriate goals. So get them to set appropriate goals and them help choose the methods of assessing the progress in relation to these goals. It's very important that they assess their progress. How did they feel they went? We've got many tools we can use, such as demonstration, guided talk-through, prompted practice, and resources such as lesson planners and apps, all there to help with the learning. And we can use these and get your learner to choose which type they would like. Very important to watch your pupil and listen. That's not just what they're saying, but the hidden things they're saying, the body languages, etc., etc. And ask questions to understand the pupil's reasoning and doing things in certain ways. Evaluate the learner using objective measures, really. How do you feel this went, etc., wherever possible. Scaling is a fantastic way of evaluating things, etc. And this also ensures that the transfer of responsibility and the learning is successful. Encourage your pupil to continually assess themselves, to assess their learning and take responsibility. What went well is very, very positive. Really work on the positives all the time. We're supposed to be non-judgmental whatsoever, completely in everything your learner does. If a pupil does something wrong, it's not wrong. It's a delayed success, really. But work within the pupil's competence levels, challenging small bites at a time. So you're building the blocks, gradually building up on your pupil's responsibility and also on their knowledge. Also with coaching, I thought this was quite interesting and very valid as well. Ensuring that your pupil has the correct number of lessons that are appropriate for them. I haven't denied about whether putting this in, etc. Because surely we wouldn't charge people for more lessons they need. Surely we wouldn't. But it is being responsible, really. If the pupil then knows you mean well for them, then they will trust you. I'm a great fan of the 2-hour lesson because I find that a 2-hour lesson contains 3 to 3 half-hour learning periods, complete with small, short breaks in the middle where we can do assessments, assessing the learner. And I really do believe it's in the learner's interest. I know that in a 2-hour session I can cover what I would normally take me 3 1-hour lessons in order to cover. And I often believe it's in the pupil's interest. Occasionally I've had a learner who, for whether it's because of practical reasons for work or job, etc., or because they struggle, then yes, I would reduce those times, etc. But I honestly can say that I never would give a learner more lessons than they need. I manage a lot of that as well by booking driving tests for my pupils and booking theory tests for my pupils, booking them well in advance, etc. So we've got them there, and I really work towards the confines of the dates. A student on a college course or a student at school knows that their exam will be next year on June the 16th, for example, and the rest of the learning takes place in there. If they're not going to hit their goal of June the 16th, the exam is not put back. GCSEs, O-levels, degrees are not put back because that student's not ready. The student is expected to catch up by doing additional study, etc., etc. And again, this is a discussion for another topic, but it's very important that there. So I'm booking tests early, setting dates, setting goals, etc. there. As said, there is no mystery to coaching. You don't necessarily need long-winded courses. Sometimes it's just really having a little different outlook. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples now. I've already given you one earlier about the mobile phone, but the things that made me change the way I think about it, really. So I said, when I first started learning, or first started teaching, if a learner wanted to have the radio on, it was an absolute no-no. I'm sorry, I want to work in silence. Radio will just distract you. Well, that's how I used to be. Now I would talk to an instructor and say, well, actually, for some people, the radio does help. Why not have it on? Why not let the student choose the radio station they want? etc. So and what could they do when the task demands get a bit high, etc., etc. And let's face it, what are they going to do when they pass the test? They're going to put the radio on. So again, it's really up to us to teach them. I mean, yeah, obviously we're not going to have some sort of bass hunter thumping in the back of the background, with the big wharfed out speakers in the back, but somewhere there. And another example, which often comes up in the driving school, we're often asked, can I bring my baby on a driving lesson? And I still hear a lot of instructors say, absolutely not. No, I'm not having a screaming baby. Well, I probably wouldn't want to do an assessment lesson with a baby in the back. But who knows, certainly something I would encourage if a young mother or father, I suppose, we can't say not, wanted to bring a lesson and brought the baby on board, then why not? I mean, obviously these practical things that they would have to supply as approved baby seat, etc., etc. But again, who is going to teach mum and dad to drive later on when the baby's screaming in the back? Obviously, there would be some sort of coaching session where you talked about them. What would we do if we're on a lesson and the baby starts to cry or baby needs some support? What would you do? And we would have to agree some steps there, etc., etc. But again, this is part of coaching. It can be a real boost for your business as well. As an instructor for many years, I've studied coaching through both DVSA and other courses, etc., including University of East London with Dr. Jonathan Passmore, who was the leading specialist on coaching for the qualified driver and coaching for the driver. I realised what I did in a lesson was coaching. As I did more and more courses, I realised I was already coaching. I was already delivering conversations. However, when it comes to a standards check, or check test it was, I want to adapt it and I would tell my students more because, again, I thought that's what the examiner wanted. So I would tend to adapt it. I would lose the conversation and become more authoritative, really, etc. And the reality was I was doing things better before. A great way of learning coaching is take out qualified drivers who could already drive. When you see them do things in certain ways, you can ask them and challenge them why they do things and would there be a better way or there. You'll find that most drivers will say, oh yeah, I do break the speed limit a little bit. Okay, and what could be the problems with that? And what issues could that cause, etc., etc. And then we can talk about stress levels, etc. Does it create extra additional stress? And most of them will agree with you, etc., etc. And they will talk about, reasons why they speed, etc. That's a really good way. Anyway, this is just a reason to try and clear up some of the myths on what coaching really is. Okay, it's not complicated. It's really a conversation that explores the deeper levels, really trying to get the pupil to understand the realities or the values and why they choose to do certain things, and really covering the risks. Okay, that's it for now. Bye for now. Slightly longer Dave's Quickies today, but coaching is quite a big subject, really. You know where I am if you want me. Happy driving, happy teaching, and I'll speak to you later. Bye-bye.